What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This. This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we finish up our talks on the Necromancy Wizard, a surprisingly good subclass that we talked about earlier this week, and I am excited to put all of that to practical use today. But before we do that, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Of course, we are coming up very close to our 5,000 subscriber goal, and so help us get there. We are less than 50 away, so I think we can get there very soon, but of course I need your help in order to do that. Make sure to share the video with your friends, and of course click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. Now, one other way that you can support this channel is by becoming a member down below. For just $2 a month down there, you can become a bronze snapper, and you get access to all of my build guides, subclass fixes, all of that good stuff is down there for you to check out. And of course there are some other great benefits as you get to higher tiers as well, getting videos early, special parts of the Discord server, all that good stuff, so make sure to check that out. So yeah, this is a really cool subclass. I came into this not expecting to rank it nearly as high as what I did, but it works. It works really well as a semi-summoner, as a person that has a lot of friends. They may not be anybody else's friends, but they're your friends, and I think that it becomes a very effective kit. So today we get to put that to practical use, and I'm excited to show you just what I've come up with. So let's go ahead and do that. Of course, here are the rules for this series, so make sure to check that out. And of course, if anything looks different at your table, then you may have to make some adjustments here and there. So we start off with our race, and I'm going with one that I have not taken in a very long time, and one that I never really expected to take as a wizard. As I was looking back through previous builds and just racial options that I thought could work here, I was kind of surprised at how well I found that one would work that normally I would not really go for as a wizard, and that is the Goliath. The Goliath is one that normally you think of as a barbarian, a fighter, something like that, one that likes to bonk. This is one that likes to cast spells and have undead friends, and I think it works here actually really well. Yeah, Little Giant may not be the best because we're not going to have that great of strength, but we're really here for Stone's Endurance. Stone's Endurance, of course, is really good, allowing us to shrug off damage, which is really cool, especially because we are going to be healing back up with Grim Harvest a little bit later, and so this kind of lets us reduce that damage, heal back up, and just stay a little bit healthier overall. And I think that that is really cool, and I think that there's a really cool story to tell about this, right? Maybe you're the runt of the litter here because you are, not that strong for a giant, and so you have some kind of weird unhealthy obsession with death through some kind of experience, and I think that there's a lot of potential here for a really cool story. So definitely a cool option. If you don't like that, of course there will be other options in the honorable mentions at the end. For our stats, of course, we're using the modified standard array like what you saw at the beginning, and so we're going to put our highest stat in intelligence, second highest in constitution, third highest is going to go in wisdom. We do need a 13 wisdom here, you'll see why here in a second. Next is dexterity, and then we can dump charisma and strength. Really doesn't matter on this one. We're not using those at all. And of course we can get a +2 and a +1 or 3 +1s as of the Mordenkainen book, and so we're going to go ahead and take the +2/+1 option, putting +2 in intelligence and +1 into wisdom. So wisdom now has an even number, and we still have odd numbers in constitution and intelligence, but we will fix that a little bit later. For equipment, we're actually going to go ahead and grab some medium armor to keep us a little bit safer. We're going to be starting somewhere other than wizard, and I think that it's really nice on this to be able to get our health back, to wear the armor so that we're a little bit harder to hit. I think there's just a lot of really good benefits here, and so overall I think this is going to work out pretty nicely. So let's start taking some levels, and at level 1 we are not going to be a wizard, and we're also not going to be an artificer. Now artificer is normally the go-to option, and I'm sure that's what most people were expecting, but that's not what we're doing this time around. We'll mention again why artificer is good at the honorable mentions in the end, but instead today we are going to be starting with cleric. The cleric class is really cool. Of course, starting off we get our subclass at level 1, so that's really, really cool. But we also get some really cool spells that don't necessarily have to have a high wisdom, which is good, so we don't have to focus on it in any way. And there's one particular subclass option that makes a ton of sense here to take just a 1-level dip in, and I think we can get a lot of use out of that, and that is the Death Cleric. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the Death Cleric. I'll put it up in the iCard above where I talked about it before. But here, I think it works okay as a 1-level dip, especially when we're talking about the Reaper feature. Reaper, of course, lets us effectively twin Necromancy cantrips, which is really cool. And of course, there are 2 of them that I will get to here in just a second that are especially effective. We also get bonus proficiency here. We're not really going to use that because it's only martial weapons. Some of the other clerics, of course, get heavy armor, but this one does not, so we're not going to worry about that. And of course, we get spellcasting as well. For cantrips, we're going to take Spare the Dying. That is a Necromancy cantrip, and of course, can be twinned should we need to. I hope we don't need to, but we can should we need to, which is good. And of course, Guidance, one of the best cantrips in the game. For first level spells, Bless, Cure Wounds, Detect Magic, Healing Word. The basics, right? Things that you would normally take as a cleric, I would grab here regardless. We don't really need anything that requires a saving throw or requires an attack roll, just because our wisdom's not going to be that great. But grab things that don't really matter on that front. And so, yeah, but we're going to use Bless most of the time, and we should be just fine. For level 2, we're going to move on to Wizard, and we're going to stay there the rest of the way. At Wizard 1, we're of course going to get Spellcasting and Arcane Recovery. If you are unsure about what the Wizard does, about the normal Wizard features, that of course will be up in the iCard above for you to check out as well. So we get Arcane Recovery, which allows us to get back spell slots during a rest, which is good, and of course Spellcasting. For cantrips, we're going to grab things like Firebolt, Prestidigitation. There's also Chill Touch, which is interesting. I'm not the biggest fan of Chill Touch. It's fine, I guess. But Toll the Dead is one we're definitely going to take because that is a necromancy spell that can be twinned, which is really, really cool. It deals really good damage. It's based on a D12 and of course scales with other cantrips, and I think that's just really, really powerful, so I like that a lot. For first level spells, of course, we got to bring the basics like Shield and Silvery Barbs, and I would also grab something like Burning Hands. Now, during my video earlier this week, I incorrectly stated that you could get multiple creatures to heal you with Grim Harvest during a single turn. That is not true. It is once per turn. However, there is no, X times per day type of thing to this. So having these AoE spells is still going to be very effective. If you take multiple KOs, oh well, you only get to take it once. But if you do get only one KO out of it and you have chipped down something else, maybe you can follow that up and take that KO a little bit later. So either way, I think having the AoE type of spells is nice. And so in this build, we're going to be focusing both on necromancy stuff and also kind of blastery stuff in order to be able to take those KOs and to be able to really get the most out of Grim Harvest as much as we possibly can. And speaking of which, at Wizard 2, we of course get Grim Harvest along with Necromancy Savant. So this is really cool. We finally get our subclass features, and we've talked about Grim Harvest a lot. Take a KO, you get some health back, which is really good. We're going to be focusing on this feature quite a bit. At Wizard 3, we get cantrip formulas, so that's fine. If you ever need to switch something out, it's there. For second level spells, Misty Step, Hold Person, and of course, for something blasty, Shatter. Now, of course, you can take some necromancy stuff, but at this point, I'm really not all that excited about anything. And of course, we're going to get a spell that makes our undead for us once we get Undead Thralls here in a few levels. So for right now, I'm not too terribly focused on it. I'm just trying to keep myself alive and use Grim Harvest as much as I can for that. So Shatter, Tiny Fireball is definitely going to be one I'm going to grab here. Wizard 4, we get our first ASI or feat, and I'm taking Warcaster to no one's surprise. We don't have a weapon, we're not going to be hitting anything, so this helps us with our attacks of opportunity should we need to make those. It also allows us to maintain concentration on things like Bless should we need to do that. So there's a lot of really good uses for that, so definitely grab that. Wizard 5 comes with no features, but we get third level spells. Counterspell, duh. Hypnotic Pattern, duh. And of course, Fireball. We got to grab Fireball for that AoE damage, and again, you take one of those KOs, you get back some HP, which is really, really good. And Wizard 6, we finally get Undead Thrall. So this gives us Animate Dead, which is really good, and it allows us to buff all of the things that we end up summoning, which is really, really good. The buffs here are very meaningful, and we talked about this a lot earlier this week, so I'm not going to get too into it, but it's really, really good. And to me, of course, we have skeletons and zombies that we can take here, and both have really good use cases. Skeletons are great archers. They're great to throw at a battle and just get some chip on it, and then you sweep in for the final kill with something like a fireball or burning hands or whatever happens to be. And then the zombies really are going to become a little bit more helpful once we get to our 5th level spells, and so we'll get to that here in just a little bit. But their immunity to poison damage is really good, and so if you can get them to grapple a bunch of guys, we'll make use of that here in just a few levels. At Wizard 7, we get no features, but we get 4th level spells. Polymorph, greater invisibility, the greatest hits there. Nothing too crazy on that. And Wizard 8, we get another ASI or feat. I'm taking Telekinetic. Telekinetic, of course, allows us to shift people around, possibly into the area of our fireball or whatever it is that we are wanting to do, and that's really nice. It also gives us a +1 to intelligence, so that is now an even number, which is great. Wizard 9, we get no features, but 5th level spells come online here, and we get, of course, your Wall of Forces, your Synaptic Static, which is another good blaster spell, but Cloud Kill, that is one I am definitely going to take every time on this, because again, this is poison damage, so we now can get our zombies to go in, grapple a bunch of creatures, and then drop a Cloud Kill on there. They're immune to it, they don't care, and everything else is taking a Cloud Kill of damage, which is pretty nasty, so I like that a lot. Really, really cool stuff. At Wizard 10, we get Inured to Undeath, which is a really nice defensive feature. It's a little lacking to me. It's not the best thing out there, and it's certainly campaign dependent, but definitely can come up for sure. Wizard 11, we get no features, but we do get 6th level spells. Create Undead is probably my top pick here. There's not a ton that I really want on the 6th level list, but Create Undead is pretty good. Wizard 12, we get another ASI or feat, and I'm grabbing Resilient Constitution. This, of course, shores up that odd number in Constitution. It gives us proficiency in our saving throws made to maintain concentration. There's a lot going on here that's really good, so definitely want that. Wizard 13, no features, but 7th level spells, and we're going to grab Finger of Death, another necromancy spell, another good damaging spell should we need that. So that's really good. Maybe take you a KO, get some health back on that. Then Wizard 14, Command Undead. And this is the big one, right? This allows you to take control of an undead that's just walking around. No CR limit, right? So if your DM is negligent and gives you a Nightwalker, then here you go, right? Obviously, the higher the CR the creature gets, the more possibility there is for it to have a higher intelligence, which can cause this to become a lot more difficult to work out. But either way, Command Undead is incredibly good, and definitely I'm sure will come up in some way in most campaigns. At Wizard 15, we get no features, but we get 8th level spells, and I'm going to take Horrid Wilting. I'm not going to try to pronounce the person's name, but Horrid Wilting. This is one that I have never suggested for any of my builds, and I don't know that I'm ever going to suggest it again, to be honest. But this came to us in Xanathars, and doesn't get talked about a lot, but it deals some really good damage, and of course undeads are going to be immune. So we can use this as basically another version of Cloud Kill, except it just deals a lot more damage, and I like that a lot. Obviously enemies at level 15 are going to be a lot better than the enemies that we were facing a few levels ago, so maybe it's going to be a little bit more difficult to pull off this strat, but still, I think that there's certainly a way that we can make this work. At Wizard 16, we get another ASI or feat, and bumping Constitution here makes the most sense, just to get us some more hit points, to make us a little bit better at maintaining concentration. All those things are really, really good. Wizard 17, we get no features, but we do get 9th level spells. I'd probably grab Meteor Swarm, right? Meteor Swarm deals a lot of damage. I don't know why we would not want something like that. Of course, there's also Wish on that list, Mass Polymorph. There's a ton of really great stuff. So honestly, any of those would be just fine. Wizard 18, we get Spell Mastery, and we're taking the two that we pretty much always take, and that is Shield and Misty Step. Those just make the most sense. I think for anything. I don't think there's really going to be a better option than those. And finally, Wizard 19, level 20, we get our final ASI or feat, and I'm just bumping Constitution once again because I don't think there's an option that really is better at this point. So what do you think of today's build? Let me know down below. I think this is a lot of fun. And honestly, it's very understated when you are looking at just a list of features like this and going through it like this. Just how effective this is, right? This was discussed in the comments section earlier this week of this being one of the most time-gated subclasses out there. This is absolutely that. The more time you have on your hands to create the undead and do all these things, the stronger you are, and the worse that it's going to be for any of your enemies. I think that there is a lot of really, really good stuff here, and I don't know why I would turn any of it down. I think this whole kit just is amazing, and I think anyone would have fun playing it. For other options in our honorable mentions, we'll start off with other race options. We're going to start off with the gnome, pretty much as always. The gnome makes a great wizard all the time. Of course, getting that resistance on the intelligence, charisma, and wisdom saving throws is really, really good. There's just a lot to love about these being a wizard. The half-elf also makes a lot of sense here. Half-elf, of course, is one of the strongest races out there, and so we get a lot of bonuses to our stats. Of course, we get some really good stuff. If you take the high elf subclass, you get an extra cantrip out of it, which is good. There's a lot to love in that. And finally, for this, the lizard folk actually making an appearance. Now, the lizard folk is one that I don't normally recommend, and I won't say that they're necessarily mechanically the strongest thing out there, but I will say that as far as the flavor goes, I think that they make a lot of sense here. They deal with a lot of death and dead things, and so I think it would only be natural for one to try to kind of dabble in this stuff, and I think that could be a really cool way of playing as well. For other feat options, Fate Touched, obviously. Fate Touched is a great one, giving us a +1 in intelligence, giving us a couple spells. Definitely a really good option in that regard. We also have Metamagic Adept. Metamagic Adept giving us the ability to possibly quicken or subtle, whatever it is we want to do. There's a lot of really good options in that. Of course, we could quicken one of our animate deads maybe, and then twin a Toll the Dead or whatever it is we want to do. There's a lot of really good stuff there. And finally, for other class options, of course, the Artificer, which we mentioned at the beginning, giving us Constitution saving throw proficiency, keeping our intelligence spellcasting in line, which is good. There's a lot to love about the Artificer for sure. Of course, armor proficiency too. There's a lot there that's really good as a base for the wizard. And the other option is a Spores Druid. Now, I love the Spores Druid. I think it's a ton of fun. But it offers a lot of really good stuff here, honestly, and makes you a little bit tankier, gives you a little bit of extra damage on your spells and on the things you want to do. I think it's a really good option here, and a little off the wall possibly, but I think you could definitely make it work. So that is all for today. Next week, a fan favorite, the Order of the Scribes. I know a lot of people have been waiting on this one. I have as well. This is a subclass that I have played a couple of times, and I absolutely love it, but got to give an objective opinion, and we will see how that goes next week. So until then, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.